Go for it.
Hi!
Hey.
We are back with another review. My name is Nokolo,
I'm Bonolo.
and today we are reviewing our fave Shaka Ilembe.
Elames.
I love that nickname.
Zulu.
Zulu. For two people who aren't Zulu, you say, what's the word?
Yeah.
Patriotic?
Yeah. Loyal.
Loyal.
Loyal to the
To
throne.
Zulus, to the throne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we are on the third episode this season. What a stunning
Yeah.
episode.
Really, really good.
Really, really great. So yeah, so this episode really kicks off with Shaga's coronation
Mm-hmm.
and the preparations that are taking place around his coronation, the preparations that he needs to adhere to prepare him. And there was a lot to unpack there, just in terms of fulfilling your destiny, healing the past, accepting your lineage and people of your lineage and people that have done you wrong and what that looks like.
And rising above all of that.
Rising above all of that. We also are seeing while this coronation is happening, very key things that are happening between Amandwandwe and Abatetwa, where the Abatetwa kingdom, they're preparing to take a trip to Delagoa Bay, and they are essentially in a trading system. And as they're on their way there, they obviously get invaded by Amandwandwe, which is part of a bigger plot around that. We also see Amandwandwe on the route and on the journey to trying, I think, they're calculating in a sense where they are, one, using the daughter to lure Inkosi Dingiswayo, and also they are intentionally hijacking the horns the to Delagoa Bay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they intentionally infiltrate, hijack that trip because they do want to start a war. So yeah, a lot is happening, but maybe a good starting point would be to start around the preparations leading
To be honest,
Shaga's coronation.
To be honest, ne?
Yes.
Those are the parts I was completely zoomed in on.
Yay, I was within.
These were the other ones of the Delagoa Bay. I kept being like, okay, let's go back. Let's go back. The bull is not bullying
You were
guys.
like, we don't need
We
this.
don't need
We
all
are
the other
here to find
to coronate.
Why? You know what is going on.
But yeah, I thought that was really. First of all, okay, so I have no context in terms of what happens in the coronation of a king, just generally speaking, and that there are like preparations that go into place with that. But I really enjoy how they explored the preparations, but not just like the logistics of the coronation, but also preparations from an ancestral perspective, what things need to happen from that perspective. I thought the conversation that Shaka had
with his
when
dad.
he was lured into the upper party, when he had a conversation
in the
underground gang. The conversation that he had with Senzangakona, I thought was so beautiful. And I know Senzangakona has been a deadbeat historically, but I genuinely feel like that moment was the moment that Shaka needed to let bygones be bygones. And I do think that it was broader than that, in that it was like, in order for you to be able to be a king that's going to unite this nation, you need to rise above all of those other things and try to lead from a place of like, unity. And I think it was interesting how that theme was explored with Shaka and with Nandi as well. Because from a Nandi perspective, you could tell that she was like completely overwhelmed with emotions, thinking about, wow, this was a place we were once excommunicated from, and today like this is the place that my son is going to rule over as destiny would have it. But she also has her own hurt about what happened in the past and stuff. So I think it was cool how they explored both mother and son going through that journey of like
separately
healing, forgiveness, and doing it separately so that she can be an effective queen mother and he can be an effective warrior.
Yeah, I agree. I think what was interesting on Nandi's part is that while she's getting ready, Umtania, who's Shaka's grandmother, says to her that it is up to you ukuthi ufuna umlando ukhumbule kanjani, meaning it's up to you how you want history to remember you, you know. And I think it's so important because she can see that Nandi still remains fixated on all the people that wronged her, leading to her and Shaka being exiled. And so she harbors that hurt. And so what she sees Shaga's coronation symbolizing is Shaka is her restoring everything she lost in the face of those people. So in a way, it is coming from a place of like ego and to be like, you are going to see that everything that you thought you were going to take from me has been returned to me. And you will witness and you will bear witness to that, right?
And not only that, you will also submit.
You will also submit under me. Under me. And I think it's such an important thing because Untania says to her, you need to remember that you are more than just being your position being fulfilled as queen. You are now mother to
all of us,
and mother to all of us. And so your responsibility is greater than the revenge and the hurt that you harbor. So you kind of see that it's a very necessary thing for her to take into consideration.
Yeah.
And I think similarly with Ushaga, you know, he has the dream where he has the dream of the bull, and the bull doesn't it. He says it looked restless, but it didn't harm him, which is always a good sign in dreams if it doesn't harm you. But if it looks agitated, it attacks you, it's a bad sign. But you can see there's tension around, you know, that dream. And when he's sitting with the healers that are preparing him for his coronation, they tell him that, you know, we are preparing you now for your coronation, and uzokwembathwa amathongo akini, meaning that I can't explain it in English. I can't, but it's almost like you'll be covered. You'll be walking,
protected and walking.
You'll be walking. Ancestors. These people will be with you.
Okay.
And he says something very influential where he says, what if I don't want angifuna ukwembathwa by everyone in my lineage, which essentially means like, what if I don't want to be, I don't want everybody to, I don't want every ancestor to embody me. And in that sense, he's referring to his father. And when he gets to the spiritual realm, he also says, I'm not here to see you, I'm here to see Nkosi Jama, which is Senzanga Kona's father.
And then he says, I am.
and then Senzanga Kona says, I am all of these things. I come from the same bloodline. And so I am all of these names that you call, you know, the same way that you are. And so we are infinitely intertwined. And he says something that's so like profound, but also very hard to grapple with, because Senzanga Kona was not a good father to Shaka. And he says, the ancestors had to have you go through hardships
to sharpen you,
and so that you could be prepared. Nothing is ever given to you on a silver platter. And so similarly to you ascending the throne, just because it was your birthright doesn't mean that it was yours. You needed to be sharpened.
It doesn't mean there weren't going to be obstacles
to prove that you are worthy of the throne, which is hard because it's like, but the person saying this and then him saying, you know, but it had to happen that way because the ancestors knew that I just would not be able to raise you and teach you. it's a hard pill to swallow.
It is a hard
It's a
pill to
hard pill to
swallow.
swallow because it's like, is it, you can understand the spiritual significance of it and like Shaga's destiny. But it's hard to hear it from someone that you would have expected to train him. So similarly to Nandi, he now has to reconcile with that, and that the recognition that he gets is now from his father is now in the afterlife. And he can only fully ascend to the throne once Intlizio, like his heart, has accepted that.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why the bull got lost, and then the bull that Mkabayi got to replace the one that got lost, was so that in the spiritual sense, none of that could happen until Shaga's heart was pure and accepting.
Yeah.
And so all of the things that were happening in the physical realm, the bull disappearing, was a physical manifestation of what was happening in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
You know? And I thought that was like so significant, and also significant on the lesson that for every thing that you are prepared for, and whenever you are prepared for greatness, there will always be something before, at the tip of your greatness, that will go wrong.
Yeah.
Or there will be an obstacle that you need to overcome.
Yeah.
Which I think was the lesson.
Yeah, I think overall that was the main sort of theme and messaging in last night's episode, was like, you know, there'll always be obstacles prior to your greatness. Forgiveness is also mostly for you more than anything
than it is for the
than
other
it is for the other
person.
person. The other person is, sometimes like Kona is living his best life in the spiritual realm. Like, he's fine. But like, you're the one that's gonna have to be here leading this nation. So are you able to like let go of all of those things and let bygones be bygones? But I think to the point that you made as well about it being a tough pill to swallow in that conversation, I actually felt like it was exactly what Shaga needed, because in a strange way, it almost absolved his father. Like, in terms of him saying, "Listen, it wasn't up to me; it was the ancestors that, like, that made it be in that way, because they knew that I'm not able to teach you those lessons." In some strange way, it felt like he was humbling himself to be like, I wouldn't have done you justice. And so it needed to happen the way that it would have happened.
Yeah.
And I think that could have, in some ways, expedited Shaga's acceptance and healing, to be like, okay.
And he also needed to hear it.
Yeah.
I think what he needed to hear more than anything was also the part where Usenzanga Kona says to him, "You are the prophecy fulfilled." Because for the longest time, Usenzanga Kona was anti that prophecy. He believed that he was the prophecy. He had some sort of resentment that it could potentially be Shaga. And I think he had always known, and resented Shaga even in the last episode.
Yeah.
And he could see Shaga's greatness. There were moments,
yeah,
that he could see, and how people around him admired they could see Shaga's gift as a young child, that he is prepared for the throne. He is the rightful heir.
Yeah.
And I think Shaga needed to hear that as well, that you are the destiny fulfilled.
Yeah.
And you are the prophecy that was prophesied.
Yeah.
So it definitely was an episode of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, just, which is not something that we like outright talk about, right? But like, this concept of parental envy is a thing. Like, and you see how it's been a thing. Like, it's not a new age, kind of thing. And I think that's mostly what his dad grappled with. Is like, what does it mean for this person that you have birthed to be the it thing, when you are the one that wants to be the it thing, right? So yeah, I think interesting things in terms of ego, parental envy, healing, forgiveness, so that you can rise above, so that you can unite. And I think that they told that very beautifully, both from Nandi and from Shaga's perspective.
Yeah, it was. And how you could see that Nandi was so anxious, so skeptical, and she wanted to go to where he was, because for the longest time, she has always been his shield. She has always been there to protect him. And she struggles to comprehend how this is the one thing that she
can't be there
can't be there for him. And so and then you see at the end, everyone is worried about the ball that got lost. And then when Shaka returns, the ball is suddenly found, and it brings the story full circle, because it then tells us that what the Sanusi said to Shaka when he made him drink we'll say it's a potion, to get him to the ancestral realm. He said, Puzalana, we are preparing you now to be king, and there are certain things that you need to do. And you see that he could only fully go into his coronation and everything to go right once he had let go of everything, and then everything just fell into place. Suddenly the ball appeared. He returns with the dead lion, he which is also meant to prove that he can be king. They are able to kill the bull in the kraal, and he ascends to the throne and the coronation with everything now back into in sync as what it was meant to be.
But you know what I found interesting though is the attendance of other kings at the coronation, especially considering how we know then it like goes down eventually in history. I thought it was interesting, like Nyambose being there, the Ndondos sending their representatives to be there. I think it made me wonder whether nobody saw it coming. The fact that like, we are all supporting this person, but eventually this person is gonna want togetherness of all of the tribes under just one nation. And yeah, I just thought, that's interesting, because a lot of them understand and are wary and fearful of the kind of leader that he is. But at the same time, they can't help but admire the kind of leader that he is. And as I was watching yesterday, I was just thinking, like, I wonder if any of them at the time had that fear that, like, actually at some point we are all gonna have to submit to this dude.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see it later on.
Yeah.
Because I guess at this point, the conversation of one nation hasn't been fully explored.
Yeah.
But you obviously do see that even with Shaga's crowning, there is reluctance even from people from his mother's side, the Kwabes from Elangeni. You see the Ozwide, Ondwandwe, sorry, as well, are similarly there, but with a watchful eye, But I think it wouldn't. It like with any coronation or with any president's inauguration.
True, there'll always be opposition.
There'll always be opposition. There'll always be competing interests. There'll always be differences, but with quiet diplomacy, we attained.
Yeah, that's true.
we attained. It is disrespectful to not attend a coronation.
You're right.
So like the same way, when Trump got
I knew you were gonna go there.
South Africa went despite.
That's true. And the former White House First Lady was like, nah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm not going there.
So, so I think if you place it in that context, it's like we are here to watch the crowning of any king.
Okay, no, that's interesting. So any predictions in terms of where the storyline is going to go? What do you think?
So, yeah, I think an interesting thing is obviously now looking at Shaka is now king. Will be interesting to see what happens under his reign. I saw in the opening videos, like that video series before the series starts.
Yes. The credits.
Yeah.
The opening credits.
Opening credits.
Yeah.
I saw a white man with a gun. So definitely.
I'm screaming. Colonialism.
The what?
The what?
Oh, yeah. Yo, the white
yes, see, brother.
Yo, they here, bruh. They are here. So I saw that and I was like, interesting. So it'll be interesting to see. And also there's quite an emphasis on trade, in these series. Intertrade amongst the kingdoms, but also I think this looming trade around like the Portuguese and the British. So I think that's going to be an interesting storyline to watch out for, especially now with Shaka as king and what's going to happen around that, and then around storylines of identity and unity. And then I think an interesting storyline is also going to be Skhunyana and Nomahlanjana, considering they both. Hey, I don't know if Nomahlanjana loves his wife, but considering there's a common love interest there, and how the brothers navigate that or not, we don't know. And then looming war between the Ndwandwes and Abatetwa, potentially with the Zulu kingdom as well, because of Shaka and Dingiswayo's relationship.
Yes.
So yeah, I think those are key storylines to watch out for.
Okay, sounds interesting. I think of those, absolutely keen to see how that happens. But I also want to see a little bit of love. I want to see a softer side to Shaka. I want to see if there's anything that's gonna happen between him and Iana. Mara ke lebitso la Zulu seo Iana.
Liana.
Oh, Liana. What does that mean?
I don't know if it means like Liana as in like
it's raining. Oh, okay. But anyway, yeah. So I'm interested to see.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Shaka from that perspective. I want to see a little bit of softness.
With the king.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see how Dingiswayo's love
interest
also plays out with the chick from the Ndwandwe, and how she manages to lure him. I'd like to see.
Is her name.
Yes. I'd like to see how that pans out. So yeah, stay tuned. Let us know what you thought of last night's episode of Shaka Ilembe. Let us know what your predictions are. And if you haven't already, please do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help the channel. It helps us grow. So yeah, let us know what you think. Bye.